Someone asks you how you're doing, and you say, "I'm good." You smile. You ask them about their weekend. You laugh at the right moments. And the whole time, underneath all of that, something is sitting on your chest, something heavy, something you can't name, but you keep going because that's what you do. And nobody notices because you're very, very good at this. Here's the thing about anxiety that nobody prepares you for. Sometimes it doesn't look like anxiety at all. It doesn't look like panic attacks or breakdowns or calling in sick. Sometimes it looks like someone who answers every email, meets every deadline, never forgets a birthday, and goes home completely empty. The world sees someone who has it together. But you know the truth. In the next few minutes, I'm going to explain why this kind of anxiety is so hard to recognize, even for the person living it, and what actually helps when "you're fine" stops being true. There's a term that's gained traction in recent years: high-functioning anxiety. It's not a clinical diagnosis. You won't find it in the DSM. But millions of people recognize it the moment they hear it. It describes a specific pattern. You feel constant low-level dread, but you still show up. You overthink every interaction, but you still perform. You're exhausted by noon, but you still deliver. And because you deliver, nobody asks if you're okay. This is the trap. Psychologist Susan David calls it the tyranny of positivity. The unspoken rule that if you're functioning, you must be fine. That productivity equals well-being. That as long as the output looks good, the person behind it must be good too. But here's what actually happens. When you push through anxiety day after day without acknowledging it, you don't overcome it. You just get better at hiding it. And getting better at hiding it means getting further from anyone who might help, including yourself. The anxiety doesn't shrink. Your life shrinks around it. You stop saying yes to things that might expose how you're feeling. You stop having honest conversations because you're afraid of the answer. You build a smaller and smaller circle that never sees the real version of you. And the loneliest part, the part nobody talks about, is that you can be surrounded by people who love you and still feel completely invisible. Because they're not ignoring your pain. They literally can't see it. You've made sure of that. So the question isn't, "Am I okay?" The question is, when was the last time you gave an honest answer to that question? The first thing to understand is that functioning is not the same as coping. Most people measure how they're doing by their output. If I went to work, I'm fine. If I met the deadline, I'm fine. If I didn't cry today, I'm fine. But that's like checking whether a car is okay by looking at whether it's still moving. A car can drive for miles with the engine overheating. It'll keep going, right until it can't. The shift is this: stop using your productivity as evidence that you're okay. You can be high-performing and struggling at the same time. Those two things are not contradictions. In fact, for many people, the performance is the struggle. It's the thing that uses up every ounce of energy, so there's nothing left for the person underneath. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, "I can't be that bad, I'm still getting things done," notice that thought. That's not reassurance. That's the mask talking. Researcher James Gross at Stanford has spent decades studying what happens when people suppress their emotions versus when they acknowledge them. What he found is striking. People who habitually suppress, who push feelings down and keep going, don't actually feel less. They feel more. The emotion doesn't leave. It gets louder. It demands more energy to contain. And over time, that containment becomes the most exhausting part of the day. But here's the useful part. Gross also found that the opposite of suppression isn't breaking down. It's labeling. The same technique from our first video, naming what you feel, works here too, but with a small addition. Set an alarm 3 times a day. When it goes off, stop whatever you're doing and answer one question. How am I actually doing right now? Not, am I getting things done? Not, have I let anyone down? Just, how am I? You don't need to fix the answer. You don't need to do anything with it. Just hear it. Over time, this practice builds what Susan David calls emotional agility, the ability to notice what you're feeling without being controlled by it. And it slowly closes the gap between the version of you the world sees and the version that's actually there. There's a physiological reason why this kind of anxiety is so exhausting, even when you're just sitting at a desk. When you suppress an emotional response, your body still has the response. Your cortisol still rises, your heart rate still increases, your muscles still tense. The only thing that changes is that your face doesn't show it, and that disconnect between what your body is doing and what your face is doing takes enormous effort to maintain. It's like running a marathon while pretending you're standing still. Studies show that chronic emotional suppression is linked to higher blood pressure, weakened immune function, and significantly reduced memory for the events you were suppressing during. Your body pays the bill for the performance your face puts on. This is why you come home drained. Not because the work was hard, but because pretending was. Your body has been running all day. You just weren't allowed to show it. You don't need to have a breakdown to deserve support. You don't need to stop functioning to admit that something isn't working. The people around you, the ones who keep saying, "You seem fine," they're not lying. They're just reading what you've given them. And you've been writing a very convincing story. But you don't have to keep writing it. You can be the person who gets things done and the person who's struggling. Those can be the same person. They probably already are. And the bravest thing you can do, the thing that takes more courage than any deadline or performance, is to answer honestly the next time someone asks how you're doing. Not for them, for you. Because the noise doesn't stop when everyone thinks you're fine. It stops when you stop pretending you are.